Iraqis today fired up a processing plant near the southern city of Basra.
And so this is going to go a long ways to alleviate some of the problems they have right now and also bring a sense of normalcy back to the Iraqi people.
The U.S. is hopeful oil sales will be the primary source of revenue to rebuild Iraq. The man charged with heading the U.S. reconstruction effort received a warm welcome as he toured parts of northern Iraq. But Jay Garner also acknowledged that not every Iraqi is happy about the continued presence of U.S. troops.
The majority of the people are glad we're here, and the majority of people realize that we're only going to stay here long enough to start a democratic government for them.
Among those anxious to see U.S. forces leave, Iraq's majority Shiite population, long oppressed by Saddam Hussein, for the first time in decades enjoying religious freedom. But these pilgrims marching to Karbala's holy shrine are also clearly opposed to the American presence. The U.S. worries Shiite leaders, backed by the Iranian government, will attempt to establish an Islamic government in Iraq. The leader of the U.S.-backed Iraqi National Congress says his people are not ungrateful, just anxious.
Iraqis don't like foreign troops on their territory, and we want to be sovereign over our territory. We want to exercise sovereignty over our territory, and we will build a democracy on this basis.
No one really knows what it will cost to rebuild Iraq, but the estimates are being revised downwards to about $30 billion a year for at least the next 5 years. Lauren Rogers, ABC News, Washington.
So Iraq's future is still very much a work in progress. Dale is with a guest to talk more about that now. Dale?
All right, thanks, Jen. We're here once again with Sacramento State University political science professor John Sire. John, get your thoughts on what we're seeing in Iraq right now. A lot of people protesting in the streets, the Shiites in particular. Obviously, they're happy at their even newfound religious freedom there. They have a pilgrimage that they performed for the first time since the 70s. But at the same time, they also want the United States out of the country.
Absolutely.
Can you have both ways right now?
Well, we haven't much of a game plan for the kind of government that will replace Saddam Hussein's dictatorship. There are a lot of players. Not all of the players will come to the table. There's going to be a meeting in Baghdad this Saturday from the various parties, but some of the parties will not attend because the U.S. is convening the meeting, and they don't want to be tainted as puppets of the United States by attending the meeting. I think that we're a long way from knowing what kind of future government is going to exist in Iraq.
And that's kind of a surprise, isn't it? I mean, especially with Afghanistan. We're talking about that. It seemed the U.S. government had a better plan for Afghanistan. There was an exile leader, Hamid Karzai, that they were able to bring back into the country. You have instant leadership.
Yes.
That doesn't play true in Iraq right now.
It doesn't. The Taliban, of course, represented a model of combined secular and religious leadership in Afghanistan. And the people in Afghanistan knew what that was all about and was quite oppressive, especially to women. That hasn't been the case in Iraq. Iraq really, I think, is going to be heavily influenced by the two models to the north and the south. The Turkish model that clearly separates secular civilian leadership from the religious Islamic leadership. It's a very separated arrangement in Turkey versus Iran to the south, where there's a combined religious and secular leadership. And I think there's going to be a very strong struggle in Iraq to see which of those two models is more likely to be influential.
I think there are probably a lot of people hoping that when we do get out of Iraq and a new government is in place, that we would have a new ally in the Middle East. But what are the chances that this new Iraqi government could actually be anti-U.S.?
That's an excellent question, Dale. Our first goal here was to establish democracy. When you establish a democracy, however, you have no idea what the people are going to want. And we were just frustrated by the Turkish parliament and not able to open up a northern front because the Turkish parliament wouldn't go for it. That was a democratically elected parliament, and they made a decision that was adverse to the U.S. That certainly can happen again in Iraq. From what I can tell, the initial reactions of Iraqis is they want to do this themselves. The sooner the U.S. is gone, the happier they're going to be. I think that what we can do in the near term is establish things like utility service, water service, distribution of health, and food supplies and things of that sort. But the politics are going to take time, and everybody's got to come to the table. And it's not clear to me yet that people will sit down together and talk about the future of Iraq. We've got to figure out some clever way to induce all parties to come to the table. And that includes the Kurds in the north, who were, mistreated a great deal, but so were the Shiites mistreated in the south. Everybody's got their their grievances. There may be people that want to have revenge against members of the Ba'ath Party. We're looking at a very long and arduous political undertaking here.
Yeah, there is some good news just in the last couple of days about the power situation in Baghdad. After 3 weeks without power, nobody likes that. Yeah. Electricity is on again to about a fifth of Baghdad. Oil is flowing once again and in the process of being refined. So hopefully this would kind of help settle things down, don't you think?
I think. But I think also that, Act 1 was relatively, the combat phase was about a month long, prosecuted with dispatch, very concise. Act 2, which we're entering now, some people feel will take as long as 5 years and maybe longer. We have been in Bosnia, after all, since January 1st, 1996. So we're going on 7 years in Bosnia. This may be as complex and difficult to solve as the Bosnian situation in the former Yugoslavia.
Okay, and even to you as a political science professor, it's just kind of like out there yet what is going to happen in that country? I mean, no set plan.
Yes, I think, well, you mean in Iraq?
In Iraq.
I think there's no question that the Shia will be the predominant, and they should be. They're 60% of the population. They will be the majority government. The question is whether they will turn towards the Iranian model of a combined religious and civil leadership, or more towards the Turkish model where there's a clear separation between church and state. In that respect, as Americans, we believe firmly in the separation of church and state, and we certainly would like to see the outcome be a Turkish model, not an Iranian model.
All right, we will certainly watch and see what happens. John, thanks again.
Thank you very much.
Jen?
Thank you, Dale. Meanwhile, some of Iraq's treasures have been found in the hands of Americans allegedly trying to smuggle the items back into the U.S. At least 4 Americans have been stopped, and the first criminal charges have been filed on this. Heather Cabot has the story.
This gold-plated AK-47 and these ornate handguns and dagger, all from Iraq and all stolen by Americans, according to U.S. Customs agents.
The people who saw these golden guns as a golden opportunity will now find themselves facing stiff penalties.
The culprits, at least 3 journalists and 1 soldier accused of trying to smuggle the goods into the U.S. The only person charged so far, a former Fox News Channel engineer who allegedly tried to bring in 12 paintings from a palace belonging to Uday Hussein. They were intercepted at Dulles International Airport in Virginia on Monday. Boston Herald reporter Jules Crittenden was on his way home from covering the war Saturday when he was stopped at Boston's Logan Airport. Customs agents confiscated a painting in his luggage after he declared it. U.S. authorities say the items seized in the last week do not appear to be priceless artifacts like the 50,000 items looted from Iraq's National Museum. But they say that doesn't lessen the crime.
The relative worth of these items is really not the point from our point of view. The point from our point of view that these are items, property, art that belong to the Iraqi people.
And to that effect, customs officials say they will be paying extra attention to people returning from the Persian Gulf, and they warn anyone who plans to bring back stolen Iraqi souvenirs to think twice or face prosecution. Heather Cabot, ABC News, New York.
And still ahead, some important health issues. We'll be talking about the workers' compensation system here in California and SARS. Is it really a serious health problem or more of a panic? We'll see how businesses in China are surviving in the SARS epidemic. This is News 10 Special Edition.
I'm News 10's Dale Shornack. It's a little maddening when you think about all of the jobs, all of the programs that'll be lost when the state does make its final budget cuts. But it's even more frustrating when you take a look at how and where some of our money is being spent. Some will say it's money well used. Others think it's a total waste. You can decide for yourself when News 10 takes a good hard look at where some of our tax dollars are going. Because after all, we're paying for it. Tuesday at 11 on News 10.
If you're buying or refinancing a home, Instify is a direct lender that offers the lowest rates available.
Today's low fixed rate is 4.625%.
1-800-INSTIFY. You owe it to yourself to call Instify.
Why most diet pills don't work. They leave you craving food. Ephedrine-free Dexatrim Results is different, with advanced appetite control, fat burners, nutrients, and natural energy sources. So you steadily lose weight without feeling hungry. Goodbye cravings, hello results. Dexatrim Results.
You can't stop pain from happening, but you can stop it from hurting with the Icy Hot Patch. Concentrated pain relief that's icy first to dull the pain, then hot to relax pain away for hours of relief.
It's fantastic how long it works.
Today at the Room Source, don't miss the one-day super sale. Save on every living room, including leather and reclining, every bedroom and dining room, and a great selection of Sealy, Posturepedic, Simmons, and Beautyrest mattress and box spring sets. And get no money down and no interest for 2 full years. Don't miss the one-day super sale, today till 9, with no money down and no interest for 2 full years. Only at the Room Source.
Designed to save you more at the Room Source, of course.
If you're buying or refinancing a home, Instify is a direct lender that offers the lowest rates available.
Today's low fixed rate is 4.625%.
1-800-INSTIFY.
You owe it to yourself to call Instify.
And now, this is a News 10 special edition.
If you work, you head off to the job expecting to have a normal day. Instead, you get hurt and you have to be out of work for a couple of weeks. Well, that's when your workers' compensation benefits kick in. But for many businesses, just keeping up with paying regular health insurance premiums is proving to be a challenge of its own. Jackie Judd explains.
When Harold Goldmeyer took over the family business in Chicago 22 years ago, health insurance for his employees was completely affordable. Today, it is a back-breaking expense.
It rises faster than any of the other fixed costs we have, whether it's property taxes, electricity, rent, anything else. Health insurance is something that's totally uncontrollable for us.
Goldmeyer has a lot of company. Small business owners have now cited health insurance costs as their most pressing problem for 4 months in a row.
The outlook for the future for small business and healthcare is not good. The trend lines are going in the wrong direction. There are fewer of our members today offering health care plans than offered them 5 years ago.
And those who do continue to shift more of the cost to workers. Goldmeyer even had to stop paying for employees' family members.
Other owners, 43% according to a recent survey, are pulling back on spending in other areas, hiring less and firing more, keeping inventory on hand low, delaying the purchase of equipment.
Put some color in it then.
Premiums shot up by a third at Kent Matlock's PR firm in Atlanta. So he and other senior executives took 10 to 15% pay cuts to salvage affordable insurance for their employees.
What we attempt to do is to make sure that they have health care. We find that is critical.
And harder to accomplish, with each passing year of double-digit premium increases and no end in sight. Jackie Judd, ABC News, Washington.
Many insiders say workers' comp could become the next major crisis to hit California. And Dale is with the guest now. A state senator who is trying to deal with this issue. Dale?
That's right, Jen. We'll hear more about that in just a minute. You know, as we just reported, businesses are finding it hard to pay health insurance premiums for their employees. And when you add workers' comp premiums to that, you do have a big problem. Business owners say that the high cost of workers' comp could actually force them to move out of California, despite the fact that benefits in this state already rank in the bottom third. Next week, Governor Gray Davis and Insurance Commissioner John Garamendi plan to unveil a package of bills that would reduce workers' comp costs by more than $1 billion. Joining us now to talk about some of these reforms and how it's going to affect all of us, Senator Richard Alarcon. Thanks for being with us this afternoon.
Pleasure.
What is, some people have called workers' comp the next major crisis in California. It seems it's kind of a two-pronged problem. Rising premiums for employers that they say they can't afford to pay, and benefits that are among the poorest in the nation.
Well, clearly, it is a medical insurance program, and therefore the cost of medical care increasing will correlate to the cost of increasing prices of workers' compensation. But there's already a crisis in terms of the cost. The premiums are far too high for business to be able to manage in a way that they can keep their employees working, keep their businesses open, and so it is one of the primary issues in the state legislature today outside of the budget.
You have introduced a bill, Senate Bill 228, which has already passed out of one committee. Bipartisan support seems to be pretty well received. What would that do to help ease this crisis?
Well, I like to think this is a central item in the package of workers' comp opportunities that we have. What it does is it requires fee schedules in areas of the medical system addressing workers' comp that do not have fee schedules. Without fee schedules, abuses can occur, and so this bill targets outpatient surgery centers to create a fee schedule. Pharmaceuticals do not now have a fee schedule. They need to have fee schedules. It requires the administrative director of the Workers' Comp Division to establish fee schedules across the board on all services and that will greatly reduce the cost. In fact, this bill alone will save approximately $1.3 billion to the employers.
Now, when we're talking fee schedules, aren't you essentially telling hospitals, clinics, pharmacies how much they can charge for certain drugs and services? And isn't that just an incredibly difficult thing to do?
Well, frankly, the fee schedules are advisory. The insurance companies then would negotiate with the providers to set the price. The extent to which the fee schedule matches the marketplace will drive the cost. That will drive the discussion about what is the appropriate fee. But right now there are some, particularly outpatient surgery centers, that are charging egregious charges. For example, on an epidural in a hospital, it might charge you $300 to $400. In an outpatient surgery center, it could cost you $3,000 to $4,000. And so we have to make this system fair so that the employees can get the benefit that they deserve, and the employers will not be charged egregious rates.
The governor's plan, which I think is due out next week, and also Insurance Commissioner Garamendi, they talk about it saving $1 billion. Does that money essentially get put back into the system in terms of increasing the benefits, which at least studies have indicated are rather poor in California?
It primarily focuses on reducing the premiums, and that is the central issue. It will have some other ancillary benefits in terms of reducing the amount of reserves that insurance companies need, and therefore improving their position in terms of solvency. One of the biggest problems was we lost many, many companies that became bankrupt and insolvent because they could not maintain their reserves. They lowered, there was this pricing war. They lowered their prices below their ability to pay their claims. They went bankrupt. And so one of the things you're seeing is a radical adjustment to the market that businesses are seeing, as opposed to an incremental approach over the last 10 years. In the last 2 years, you're seeing a radical adjustment, and businesses are falling out as a result.
There's also the issue of workers' comp fraud, and I think there's a bill. In fact, there are, 52 bills in the legislature right now that you just came from a 6-hour hearing. I mean, that has to be mind-numbing when you have so many bills and so many hours in hearings, but Assembly Bill 1215 would address the issue of fraud.
Well, I haven't looked at that particular bill. It's still in the Assembly. But the issue of fraud is central to controlling the costs within workers' comp. So it is essential that we manage fraud. In fact, my bill not only proposes to focus on worker fraud, but to focus on medical-related fraud and billing practices. And so fraud, to the extent that we can reduce the fraud, and recognizing that every system of insurance is going to have fraud components, but to the extent we can reduce it, we are therefore improving the condition for the employers as well as the opportunity to provide benefits to the employees.
Okay. Well, sounds like a lot of work is being done in the legislature right now to kind of move us in that direction. Senator, appreciate your time.
Pleasure. Thank you
for coming in this afternoon. We'll be back with more on this special edition of News 10 at 4 right after this.
If you carry this